In a world obsessed with fame, flash, and fast headlines, one young man is quietly rewriting what it means to be a champion. His story doesn't begin on the lawns of Wimbledon or under the lights of New York. It starts on a cracked dirt court in a small Spanish town, with a boy holding a taped-up racket and a dream too big for his shoes. That boy is Carlos Alcaraz, the prodigy who rose from humble beginnings to conquer tennis's grandest stages without ever losing sight of where he came from. While others chase luxury and spotlight, Carlos chooses family, simplicity, and truth. His journey isn't just about trophies, it's about resilience, integrity, and staying grounded when the world tries to lift you too high. This is not just the story of a tennis star, it's the story of a new kind of legend, one who proves you can reach the top and still be yourself. Carlos was born on May 5th, 2003 in Palmar, a dusty corner of Murcia, Spain, where the air smelled of dry earth and sunburnt summers. Nothing about that place screamed greatness, yet that's exactly where it began. He was the second of 4 kids. His father, once a promising tennis player, had traded dreams for bills, working as a coach at a local club. His mother, a teacher, stretched every paycheck to keep the family of 6 afloat. Carlos picked up a racket at 4 years old, an old, oversized one his dad passed down. His first lessons weren't under bright lights or fancy coaches, but beneath dim street lamps, with his father chasing stray balls and riding a rattling bike to every court they could find. They never went hungry, but luxury was a stranger. Every new racket meant sacrifice. Every match was a test of faith. And yet, with every swing, every drop of sweat, that little boy whispered the same promise to himself: I will go far. When he turned 11, that promise started to come true. At a small tournament in Murcia, a skinny teenager caught the attention of Albert Molina, an agent for top tennis pros. It wasn't his technique that stood out. It was the fire in his eyes, the way he hit every forehand like he was fighting for his next meal. Molina didn't hesitate. He called Juan Carlos Ferrero, the former world #1, and head of the J.C. Ferrero Ecolate Academy. Ferrero drove hundreds of miles just to see this kid play one set. Afterward, he didn't give a speech, just one line: if you're serious, I'll train you like a champion. At 15, Carlos left his hometown of Palmar for the academy. Gone were the dusty roads and his family's small home. Life there started before sunrise. 4 hours of drills, 2 of conditioning, 1 of video analysis. No one picked up his balls anymore. It was just him, his racket, and a dream that refused to die. Under Ferrero's tough but caring guidance, Carlos learned to fight with precision and with heart. Pain became routine. Retreat was never an option. After every win, he'd just nod, pack his bag, and walk off quietly. In 2020, at 16, he made his ATP debut in Rio and shocked the world by defeating veteran Albert Ramos after a grueling 3-hour battle. Then came the Australian Open, UMAG, the US Open quarterfinals. By 2022, that boy from Palmar was no longer a promise. He was a Grand Slam champion. The US Open final stretched past 3.5 hours. Every point a battle, every rally a test of will. When it ended, Carlos Alcaraz didn't roar or raise his arms. He fell to the court, hands over his face, curling into himself, as if cradling the dream he'd carried since childhood. That moment made him not just a Grand Slam champion, but the youngest world number. One in history, only 19 years old. The same season, he lifted the Miami Open trophy, one of the youngest ever to win a Masters 1000. But what truly defined Carlos wasn't his records, it was how he earned them. Every match was a war of heart. Every drop shot, every sprint to the baseline, every desperate counterattack revealed the same unbreakable fire. His rivals might have had more power or experience, but Alcaraz played with nothing to lose, and that made him unstoppable. By 2023, he joined tennis royalty. At Wimbledon, he faced Novak Djokovic, unbeaten on center court for a decade. After dropping the first set 1-6, Carlos clawed back point by point until he triumphed in 5 electrifying sets. When the final ball landed out, the crowd rose to salute a new king. In 2024, he conquered Roland Garros and defended his Wimbledon crown, then stood on the Olympic podium with silver, promising, "In 4 years, I'll bring the gold." Now, at just 22, after victories in China, Rotterdam, and Rome, one question remains. Not who will replace the legends, but who can catch Carlos Alcaraz. If it goes through, it'll be one of the biggest apparel deals in tennis history. But Carlos Alcaraz's rise isn't just about trophies. It's about loyalty and legacy. One of his longest partners, the French racket maker Babolat, has stood by him since he was 13. Carlos wields their Pure Aero 98, and his new 7-year deal with the brand is among the most enduring sponsorships in the sport. Then came Rolex. After his 2022 US Open win, the iconic Swiss brand named him a global ambassador, a role once held by Roger Federer. To Rolex, Carlos wasn't just the next big player. He was the face of tennis's future. Soon, the world followed. BMW handed him a sleek iX1 SUV and made him the symbol of their electric era. Louis Vuitton brought him to Paris for a fashion shoot, turning a clay court warrior into a global style icon. Calvin Klein featured him in a bold underwear campaign, while Istin, Spain's top skincare brand, cast him as the image of youth and authenticity. Behind it all is agent Albert Molina, carefully curating each partnership to build a timeless brand, not just endorsements. Carlos isn't chasing logos, he's crafting identity. Next on his horizon, his own line of gear, rackets, shoes, apparel, bearing his name. And beyond the fame, his Carlos Alcaraz Foundation gives back, funding tennis for underprivileged kids and building courts where dreams like his can begin. For Carlos Alcaraz, success has never been just about titles or money. It's about using his story to inspire others. In 2024, he shared the court with Rafael Nadal at the Netflix Slam, earning up to $2 million for a single exhibition match. But this wasn't just for show. It was a strategic move to expand his global presence, especially in the US and Asia. The event set the stage for Carlos Alcaraz. My Way, a Netflix documentary released in April 2025, capturing his grueling 2024 season, his mindset, his struggles, and the quiet humanity behind his rise. Now every swing of his racket echoes far beyond the court, through headlines, sponsorships, and boardrooms alike. He's proving that a modern athlete can be everything: a champion, a fashion icon, and a visionary entrepreneur. Yet behind all the fame, Carlos stays grounded. While most imagine a superstar's mansion overlooking the Mediterranean, Alcaraz still lives in a modest $190,000 apartment in El Palmar, the small Spanish town where it all began. The walls still carry faded scribbles from his teenage dreams. Roland Garros, age 20. That dream came true, and he even tattooed a tiny crown on his body to remember it. When he's home, he's not world number one, he's just Carlos, the middle son, eating his mom's cooking, laughing with his brothers, fixing nets with his dad. Proof that no matter how far he goes, his roots will always keep him grounded. Carlos Alcaraz often says that staying close to his roots is what keeps him steady amid the whirlwind of fame. In El Palmar, he doesn't need to be the future of tennis. He's simply the son who gets hugged by his mom, watched over by his dad, and finds peace in the same quiet streets where his dreams began. In a world where sports are often defined by luxury and ego, Carlos is living proof that greatness and humility can exist side by side. Take his cars, for example. Forget the image of a star surrounded by flashy supercars. Carlos's collection is modest, chosen for meaning, not show. As a BMW global ambassador, he drives an electric BMW iX1, sleek, modern, and environmentally friendly, but far from extravagant. You'll see it most often on the sunny roads of Murcia or parked at the Equalite Academy, where he still trains daily. He's also been spotted driving a moss green BMW M4 convertible, a quiet reward after his 2023 Wimbledon win, and a limited Mini Cooper SE, compact yet full of character, just like his game. But Carlos never flaunts them. No car selfies, no luxury flexing online. To him, a car is just a way to get from training to home, from one dream to the next. Behind the trophies, the Rolex, and the global fame is a young man who values privacy over attention, a calm soul in a noisy world. There's one name that often circles quietly around Carlos Alcaraz: Maria Gonzalez Jimenez. She's not a celebrity or influencer, but a law student at the University of Murcia and an amateur tennis player at the same local club where Carlos first learned to swing a racket. They grew up just a few streets apart in El Palmar, meeting when they were barely 12. No paparazzi photos, no public affection, just whispers of a bond that grew behind the scenes. And yet, after every victory, Carlos's glance toward the crowd sometimes lingers, as if searching for one familiar smile, one quiet supporter. By late 2024, Maria stopped appearing at tournaments. Reports say the two decided to take a break, each focusing on their own paths. When asked, Carlos said simply, "I haven't thought about marriage. Tennis comes first, short, honest, focused, just like him." Family remains his anchor. His brother Alvaro trains beside him, and whenever Carlos gets a break, he heads home to El Palmar, to family dinners, laughter, and peace far from the spotlight. Off-court, he lives simply. Early mornings at the gym, rounds of golf to clear his mind, FIFA and Call of Duty with friends, Spanish pop and reggaeton in his earbuds. 3 tattoos mark his milestones: head, heart, and courage for his grandfather, the dates of his US Open and Wimbledon victories. Quiet reminders that glory fades, but purpose stays. Carlos Alcaraz doesn't appear in documentaries like Breakpoint or Carlos Alcaraz, My Way to stir drama or chase clicks. He does it to tell his story honestly, that of a young man who isn't perfect, isn't loud, but stays true to his values and the people he loves. In today's sports world where fame often overshadows integrity, Alcaraz stands apart. A spotless star carrying the weight of expectations with quiet strength. When you become world number one just a few years into your career, every glance, gesture, and silence becomes public property. Yet Carlos has faced that microscope with grace. No scandals, no ego, just discipline and respect. As of mid-2025, his record remains remarkably clean. No controversies, no reckless statements, no legal troubles. In an era where a single tweet can end a career, maintaining that kind of integrity at 22 is rare. His only public lapse came at Indian Wells 2025, when frustration led him to smash his racket after a bad call. But before headlines could twist the story, he issued a simple apology. "I'm sorry for my behavior. It shouldn't have happened." His sincerity turned potential backlash into admiration. Later, when his name was mistakenly tied to a major lawsuit, Alcaraz clarified the truth within hours. Calm, clear, and confident. Even Rafael Nadal once praised him for his courage to admit weakness and learn from defeat. Carlos Alcaraz is not flawless, and that's exactly why he inspires. He gets angry, he hurts, but he never hides. In an age of noise and controversy, he reminds us that real greatness isn't just about winning titles. It's about staying human while standing tall. He proves you can reach the top without losing yourself.